Hi everyone, my name's Chris Closton, and welcome back to another episode of Cluestone discussing the music. This is episode 2 where I'll be going over my song Black Pepper. If you're new to this, what I've been doing is I'm going over each song of my EP. There's a first time for everything, which is available on streaming services now, if you've not heard it. And yeah, my idea for these videos is to just talk about each song, talk about how they were written, the lyrics, some of the production side, which I'll go into more in the overview of the EP, which will be the 5th episode. And yeah, just talk about the music. It's something I feel like more smaller artists should do. It's certainly something I'm interested in, so yeah, I hope you enjoy. So Black Pepper was written back in the beginning of 2022, I believe. It was either the beginning of 2022 or the very end of 2021, but I believe it was the beginning of 2022. So I wrote it for, if you saw my last episode, I talked about I was in a uni band and we had 2 performances. So the first performance we played Ballad of Xander Patterson. So this one I wrote Black Pepper for this. And it started off as kind of like a filler song. We just kind of needed, we just needed more stuff. So I kind of came up with this wee ditty, like this wee pop punk thing to kind of go along with what we did for the first performance, so Ballad of Xander Patterson. And yeah, I really liked kind of just like this kind of stuff I came up with, just this wee like 3-minute, pop punk tune. So I wrote it originally, I was just jamming on guitar, I was just jamming out ideas, and then I came up with that like main riff, like I came up with that. I was just kind of riffing away. I was kind of jamming stuff, and I kind of thought, like, as I was kind of writing this thing, I kind of thought like, that's got kind of reminds me of like Offspring and stuff, so similar to Ballad of Xander Patterson. So I wanted to go for that kind of Green Day vibe, that kind of riffy tune kind of thing. And yeah, so I wrote that, and then I kind of wrote like the power chords behind it, and I wanted to give it that kind of strokesy, kind of jangly, like, sound. So I had like one guitar doing like the low power chords and the other doing like the high notes, so that really high pitched trebly kind of sound that you hear like bands like Strokes and stuff use, which I thought worked quite well with that like pop punky riff. I'm a big fan of bass. Like, I've always said that one of my favourite things about listening to music is listening to bass lines. Particular video game music, especially back in the SNES and Mega Drive days when they were limited to what they could have, so bass lines tended to be like really interesting, really stood out because they needed to fill out a lot of space. And that's always something I've kind of tried to do in my music whenever I've been writing or I've been playing bass in a band. I've always tried to put a lot of thought into when the bass line should be quite simple and just follow the root notes of the chord and just play the role of just keeping things nice and full in the sound but still being simple. And then when you should be complicated, when you should be doing kind of like more kind of like walking about lines or like fills or like, filling out the sound in terms of like playing quite complicated riffs and stuff. And so I feel Black Pepper and the Ballad of Xander Patterson, the bass lines in both of those songs, especially the kind of big bass moments of those songs, I feel encapsulate my feelings for bass. Because in Ballad of Xander Patterson you have the bass solo, or I suppose you could say it's a bass interlude, not much of a solo, it just does the same thing over and over, but it was, a wee bit more complicated, it was compared to like the rest of the bass lines in the song, which are quite straight, and then that kind of comes out as like a kind of octavey kind of thing. But then in Ballad of Xander Patterson, the bass interlude is really simple. It's pretty much the verse, just a very slightly different rhythm. And my idea for both of them is that they both serve different purposes, and I think that's indicative of music as a whole. That's how you should be thinking of music, but especially the bass lines. Because I'm such a big fan of bass, and I listen to bass when I listen to music, probably more than a lot of stuff. I wanted to have different flavors of bass lines. I didn't want to just have overly complicated bass lines all through the bit. I didn't think, especially for writing pop punk, obviously there are great pop punk bassists out there, like the bassist for Rancid, one of the best bloody bassists I've ever heard. Maxwell Murders is absolutely mental. But I feel like I wanted to have that kind of balance. Sometimes the bass lines aren't doing an awful lot, they're just kind of serving the purpose of filling the root note, and then at other times doing a lot more with it, which I think I did pretty well, if I say so myself. In the last video I mentioned that I use working titles when I'm working with demos of songs, usually just to keep everything kind of organised, so I'm not just naming it like Pop Punk Song 1, Pop Punk Song 2, that kind of thing. So Ballad of Xander Patterson originally was titled St. John, and we then changed the name to the Ballad of Xander Patterson. But Black Pepper was the working title, and when I presented it to Toya and the rest of the band, Toya asked me, like, so what's this song about? And I said, I have no idea. I was eating black pepper crisps while I was writing it, so that's why I named it that. So she then goes away and did what she always does, took like 10-20 minutes, came back with this song pretty much written out, for the most part, kind of thing, and it was just about me eating black pepper crisps. So you could say the song is based on a true story. And so my main inclusion of the song was Fanta Fruit Twist. That's other than being the inspiration of that, that's as far as my part in the lyrics go. I really like the lyrics. I feel that they're like really funny and like light-hearted, and it matches the the upbeat vibe like of Black Pepper. Like the music I feel is like really upbeat and quite cheery sounding, and I feel like the lyrics match that quite well. So once again, Ben Connolly, who did the drums on Ballad of Xander Patterson, he did the drums for the whole EP. I sent him my demo for Black Pepper, and just like last time, he sent me this amazing track. So the original demo, drum-wise, was quite mid-paced, I suppose you could say. Not really, it wasn't as fast-paced as Ben's track, is what I'm trying to say. So when he sent me his version, like his drum take, I was blown away. I was like, he's worked his magic again, because he just like goes in 100%. Like, from the beginning of that like little drum fill that then goes into the the first part of the song, the introduction, he's just flying, like flying away with it. Got loads of fills. He's going nuts on the hi-hats and cymbals and stuff, and really cool. Like I was really impressed with it, and I felt like it injected a lot of energy into the song, and just really made it what it is, I felt. One of my favourite parts of the song was the pre-chorus, where the drums are doing this kind of offbeaty kind of thing, while the bass is just thumping along, and then you've got Toya, who's kind of going up and down the scale, and doing really, really, really good. And then the guitars are kind of doing like the sustain kind of thing, and then building back in, and then it just explodes back into the chorus. Like, obviously I wrote it, but like hearing it all together with Ben's drumming, that like just that offbeaty kind of thing he was doing, combined with Toya's amazing voice, and then just it all coming together. It went from like, it was just, originally for me, it was just a section, it's just something to get from the verse to the chorus, so it was just meant to be like just a little, something, nothing too important, but it's became one of my favourite bits. See, when I hear that and I hear like the drums going away and the bass thumping and stuff, I'm like, oh, that's great, like that sounds really good. which is cool. You know, I like when stuff like that happens. It's goes when you collaborate with other people, they can inject some really cool stuff into your music. And thank you for watching. That's been another episode of Cluestone discussing the music, discussing the song Black Pepper. So next Friday I will be discussing How Do You Know I Care, which assuming you've not listened to the song, which, you know, why are you watching this if you haven't listened to the EP? But the next two songs are songs that I sung, and so I'll kind of be able to go into more depth about the lyrics and stuff like that. But I'm trying to kind of make these videos a wee bit more structured as I go along, like, you know, as I get better at them, which I better do because I've only got 3 left like of this series. But yeah, if there's any information or anything that I've not went over in these videos that you would like to know, then please comment below and I'll check out, and I can go over them in the overview video in the 5th episode. So yeah, if there's anything you would like to know that I've just kind of missed, because I am just kind of rambling here, so there is definitely not as detailed as maybe some people would like, but yeah, just let me know. I'm happy to include any more information I can give, assuming I can give it. But yeah, thank you very much for watching, and I will see you guys next Friday. So bye.